Good morning, YouTube. Hope you're having a great day today. Today what I wanted to do I was feeling a little adventurous in an adventure mood today, so I decided what I really wanted to do was do a few stories for you this morning. Each weekend I typically take I typically record 2 or 3 videos, get the raw footage recorded, and then I'll edit the videos kind of later and get them in there. So what I wanted to do this morning is actually do a trilogy of kind of 3 separate sort of adventure stories, all written in within the same 4 or 5 years of each other. And I decided to actually emphasize kind of this Lost World kind of setting. I'm going to start off, the videos will be separate, but the first one's going to be Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Lost World. That kind of gets things started. It's the first sort of English Lost World story. It creates the genre. It's hugely popular. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. And then in the next video, we're going to be looking at Edgar Rice Burroughs' version of that, which is The Land That Time Forgot. And then we'll be looking at Abraham Merritt's version of that in The Moon Pool. All 3 of these are science fiction, fantasy, and in fact, the Moon Pool started off as a horror story before Merritt changed it. So we're going to take a look at all 3 of these kind of Lost World stories, unpack them for you, and give you a chance to kind of take a look at them. So today, again, we're going to be looking at The Lost World in this first video by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, I'm pretty sure you probably don't need me to tell you who Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is. He's famous for writing, the Sherlock Holmes character. You've probably, even if you've never read anything by him, you've certainly heard of him. I'm sure you've heard of Sherlock Holmes. If you've never read a Holmes story, you've at least, I'm sure, seen the television shows, the movies, something out there. That character really resonated with a lot of people. It was not the first sort of detective story. That was kind of Edgar Allan Poe, actually, was the first one to sort of create the English detective story. But he really codified it, mastered it, and is considered sort of the master of sort of creating that sort of detective genre that he mastered. Most detective stuff that followed has been following in the footsteps of Holmes, as created by Conan Doyle. If you know a little bit about Conan Doyle, you know that he's actually a spiritualist. He believes in kind of the spiritual side of things. He's a member of an order that believes in these sort of spiritual things that's happening and stuff at the time. And he's one of the more popular members of that society. He believes ghost stories are happening, fairies are visiting and such. He's a spiritualist. He would identify with that, as opposed to like a Christian or something, kind of a separate sort of faith. So you'll see that in a lot of his writings and so forth. The thing that makes The Lost World really interesting, it's going to be a novel-length story. He publishes it in 1912. In fact, all the stories that we're going to be reading today are published in the 19-teens, so a little more than 100 years ago. And this story actually introduces a character that he's going to fall in love with a lot, and pretty much everything that he writes after this is going to feature this character. The name of the character is Professor Challenger, and he'll have a number of characters from Professor Challenger. Most of his stuff from here on out is going to feature Challenger. Now, he does write this later on in his career. I mean, he starts writing the Conan Doyle. He starts writing like in the 1880s and such. So this is coming later on in his career, but it's hugely influential because it's the first sort of Lost World story. So let's unpack it, take a look at sort of its influence, how you know about this stuff still today, and how it's still influential. So the novel, published in 1912, features 3 main characters: Professor Challenger, this reporter named Malone, and you also have this lord who's an adventurer too. They're going to head out on an expedition to the Amazon jungle. They have heard rumors of some unsubstantiated rumors and some claims of some prehistoric creatures that are found there. They're going to find out that those rumors are true, head to this giant plateau, spend most of the book in this giant plateau where all of these prehistoric creatures, dinosaurs, and stuff are running around with tribal people too. What makes the book really interesting, again, is this concept of people living with dinosaurs today, them surviving through to today. It's very interesting, and kind of it really evokes kind of a sense of, that's kind of cool. I'd love to go see real life dinosaurs and such. So that's basically the book in its entirety. Now, when Doyle writes something, he's not going to, if he gives you a novel length, by this time in his career, he's pretty good as an author. He's not going to just create characters for you and just kind of have them kind of spin their wheels and then exit stage right. He's going to really kind of develop them. Each of the 3 main characters will have a character arc. The reporter Malone, who's probably the main character of the story, is going to have probably the biggest arc, but everybody else is going to have an arc too. And Challenger is basically the opposite of Sherlock Holmes. Instead of thinking about things and stuff, Professor Challenger just throws himself at everything at the drop of a hat. He's a smart intellectual person who's well read. and well respected within the community. But he is a definite sort of throw myself and think later kind of a character, but throw yourself into the thick of it, as opposed to Sherlock Holmes. So he's kind of an anti-Holmes, which I think is something definitely. I think that, probably that Arthur Conan Doyle was probably a little tired of writing your traditional Holmes sort of stories, and so what he wanted to do instead was and kind of embrace a sort of an anti-Holmes character. And again, he fell in love with it. He fell in love with Professor Challenger. Professor Challenger is by far the biggest personality in this story. I don't want to tell you what happens too much, but it's not like it's not predictable. It's a Lost World story. They're going to explore the Lost World setting, and then that's it. I mean, they're going to come home, right? We all know what's going to happen. Now, I'm not going to spoiler like too much of it, but it's not like it's something huge to spoil anyway. But because of what it did, it was hugely successful. Now, all of the Lost World sort of dinosaurs are living with us, and we're going to experience them. We'll take the name The Lost World from Conan Doyle, so you know already that he was hugely influential. Tons of Lost World stuff's going to follow. You have 1915, you're going to have a Russian person. You're going to have other Lost World people to follow in the next couple of years. It's going to become hugely popular and a big part of sort of literature to follow, particularly in English, where Doyle wrote his first work. There is a little bit of a Lost World sort of feel with one of Jules Verne novels, and that's called The Journey to the Center of the Earth, where there is sort of this prehistoric creatures may be alive deep down underground and such. So there is sort of that, but it's not really kind of this. People living, up right now with prehistoric creatures on this world kind of a concept. Lots of stuff followed with sort of this name, sort of this concept of the Lost World. It influenced everything from television series like Land of the Lost to the TV show Lost, and lots more. Tons of movies, tons of stories, tons of novels, tons of video games have followed. Just lots and lots of media have followed that have pushed this sort of Lost World concept. Because he set it in the Amazon, which was a distant place in the map, most people hadn't been there at the time, he was able to put it in a place that was realistic for most people. And I think for that reason, a lot of the stuff that followed later on has been set in, this sort of a jungle setting. You could put it somewhere else. It doesn't have to necessarily be tethered to a jungle setting, but I even think that most Lost World stuff is going to be evoking that sort of a style, and so for that reason, it's even influential in its settings and such. And Conan Doyle, because he's the one who kind of creates this idea, is definitely somebody who puts it on a map in a major way, and he can basically have his story be his story without having to worry about what Lost World stuff has come before and he might be writing against or in favor of. So it's really good. And again, you would expect this from a guy like Doyle, who was famous for creating Sherlock Holmes and such. This is a famous story that he made. It's hugely influential. And even influences stories like The Lost World and title for Michael Crichton's novel, which is Lost World-esque in its setting, a faraway place where dinosaurs are still living, and such. So it's definitely something that's influenced people all the way through today, and you can see Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park and stuff works through this. So anyway, that's kind of The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Have you read it? What'd you think of it? Check it out in the comments below. I'm happy to talk with you about that further. I will link you to it, in my post with the information on it below here, because it's a great story. And if you haven't read it, it's not. Most of the novels that are being written at this time aren't that long. It's not a long read. It's novel length, but if it takes you 3 hours, I'd be surprised. Even in this sort of big giant version, it's like 170 pages long, which is not long at all. So I'd recommend it heavily. It's because of how influential it is, how fun it is. And how much it puts Lost World stuff on the map and adventure stuff on the map. It's fun. There's going to be dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are going to be, and it's going to be seen in sort of a scientific sort of thing. It's not just an oh gosh dinosaurs, but he really does kind of unpack sort of the science of dinosaurs using modern paleontology at the time. Sort of their concepts. So it's definitely girded in science fiction. It's a soft science fiction, but it's definitely still a science fiction story. So anyway, that's Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World. Again, if you thought about it, check it out and let me know in the comments below if you've never thought about it or if you've never heard of it. Then check it out. You're gonna be glad you did. If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch some more of my stuff, please feel free to hit that subscribe button down there in the corner. It's there could be so many more videos to come. I am recording 3 or 4 a week and publishing at least 2 a week. So we'll be keeping you up to that speed and such. There's a lot of fantasy, science fiction, and horror stuff that I like to unpack for people. A lot of lost treasures, books by famous authors that may not be the famous ones that you know about. and such. So I think there's a lot of fun stuff here. There's going to be at least, I've got so many videos planned. It's going to be an epic amount. So if you enjoyed this, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. There's going to be a lot more to come. And if you watch this video, hey, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. We all have busy days, busy lives. So I appreciate that you took some time out of investing it in me in this video. Have a great day.